Hello, America. Welcome to the very first episode of the American Restraint podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Trepanier, and I'm excited to kick off this journey. Okay, before we get started, a little bit about me and why I decided that I needed to start doing this podcast. First off, I have a very unique answer to the question of how to fix America. I also believe that the answer to this question is something that is best delivered in long form, not in just a couple of sound bites. Sound bites on TV, online, or even other podcasts are not what you're going to find here. On this podcast, we discuss long-term themes of serious importance, not just frivolous daily news. There are plenty of places you can find daily news and hot takes. The answers to the question of how to fix America are not to be found in hot takes. The answers to the question of how to fix America are largely covered in my book, American Restraint. My book is available in print, ebook, and audiobook versions at Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and other popular outlets. I encourage you to get a copy today for a well-researched and thorough overview of how to fix America. The reviews on Amazon support my claim. By the way, quick note, if you like the book, please add your review. And if you like this podcast, please like and subscribe. These efforts really help get the word out for this super important initiative. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. A little bit more about me and why I decided to start doing this podcast. Who am I? I'm an average American who loves this country, but I'm also super concerned about the current state of America. I'm also a Gen Xer, and I humbly submit that I think we're the most even-keeled of all the generations. I'm concerned about the future of this country mostly because I have kids, and I'm worried about what type of country we as adults will hand off to this next generation. Right now, it looks like we're handing off a country that is too far in debt, too expensive to buy a house, too hard to get a good job with affordable health care, and too divided by loud and angry voices. I don't think it has to be this way, though. I'm a glass half full guy, and I always have been. I believe in the importance of gratitude and the role of a positive mindset in my own life. I also believe that the forces of hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism have made it really hard for people to get along and really hard for our government to get anything positive done. I believe that we have a great opportunity ahead, but only if we embrace restraint, America. After studying political science and international business at UCLA, I worked for over 3 decades in high technology and manufacturing. I discovered how both hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism have helped create a divided country. My career, community service, and political philosophy research have led to the conclusion that the only thing that can fix America is Article 5 in the Constitution. The first solution is in the Constitution, on Article 5, Convention of States. A convention proposing 3 popular amendments. Number 1, a balanced budget amendment. Number 2, term limits for Congress. And number 3, limits to the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. A focused Article 5 convention will go a long way towards restraining the powers of the federal government and return more decision-making to the states. Quick note here. What DOGE is trying to do is temporary and can be undone by the next Democratic administration. An Article 5 convention would add amendments to the Constitution to permanently restrain the federal government. Much more about Article 5 in future episodes. Then we need more innovation and experimentation by individual states to restrain the forces of hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism. More about this as well in future episodes. This podcast, American Restraint, challenges decades of failed Democratic and Republican policies and calls for new, pragmatic solutions that put the needs of children, families, and communities first. The key themes of my new book also provide a framework to restore respect for religion, rebuild the middle class, restrain toxic consumerism, restore community trust, restrain the Wall Street casino, restrain big tech's control over our lives, reduce illegal competition for American jobs, promote resilience and service to help disadvantaged Americans. These are some more themes that we'll be definitely developing in this podcast. Let me back up a little bit and talk about where we are as a country. This is kind of an introduction to not only my book, American Restraint, but an introduction into what I'd like to share with you on this podcast journey. Hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism, you see, everything you need to know about the divided states of America can be explained by these two relentless forces. This podcast will explore how both hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism are what is fundamentally ripping our country apart. Individualism and capitalism were largely forces for good in America, as long as they were restrained by strong families, strong communities, and moral values. As individualism and capitalism became ends unto themselves, they broke up families, communities, shared values, and divided America. And you know, America isn't just historically divided. It has been transformed by these forces of hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism. Some really important long-term trends here. Nearly 80% of Americans believe the country is on the wrong track. Collapsing rates of family formation make rebuilding communities almost impossible. Trust is in historically short supply, as Americans have lost trust in their neighbors and almost every major institution. Moral confusion pervades America, and almost 40% of the country believes that religion has more of a negative than a positive impact on the country. And the ever-growing gap between rich and poor has created constant economic uncertainty for the middle and working classes. On a related note, neither of these past presidential elections really addressed these two major issues of hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism. In fact, between 90 to 100 million voting-age Americans didn't even vote in the past 3 presidential elections. Think about that. The center cannot hold. The center is what has traditionally given America its strength and resilience. The middle class held together the fabric of American society by virtue of its adherence to basic virtues like family, church, community, thrift, shared sacrifice, and a love of country. The middle class used to be at the heart of the American dream. As upper-class elites have siphoned off more income, wealth, and power, the middle class has become battered and American strength has become weakened. The majority of power in America today has become consolidated among billionaires. Something is structurally warped in a society where the top 1% hold 30% of the nation's wealth, and the top 10% hold 60% of the nation's wealth. America has also changed dramatically over the last 50 years. We don't share much in common anymore. We have radically different views of our history and our most important current problems and our future. We have unprecedented levels of unhealthy addictions, poverty, homelessness, random violence, and generally unfit leaders to guide us through this crisis of our national faith. American culture used to be more centrist in its political and cultural outlook, but our culture has become unmoored as social media, cable news, and elite opinion leaders have fomented divisiveness. So without a strong center in America, there is no way to absorb the natural tension that comes from extremes on the right and left. Something is seriously wrong in America, and it's structural. So most commentators who look at these problems usually say one of four things. Number one, we need better leaders. Two, average citizens just need to learn to get along again. Three, we need to follow the original intent of the Constitution more closely. And four, America is hopelessly racist, sexist, homophobic, etc., and more government intervention is necessary. There are kernels of truth in each of the ideas that I just mentioned. But the problem is they don't address the underlying structural problems in America. It's becoming clearer every day that America doesn't work anymore. The country has become too big, too corrupt, too wealthy, too divided, and too angry to function as it has for the past 200 plus years. In order to address these structural forces dividing our country, we need to examine how we became undone. We need to address hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism through the power of restraint. Restraint from individuals, businesses, and leaders. We also need a return to federalism and return political power, money, and decisions closest to where everyday Americans live and not in Washington, D.C. You see, America is currently broken, but it can be reborn. We're embarking on a podcast journey towards a reborn America based on family, community, health, and service, instead of unrestrained, toxic individualism, greed, and materialism. I'll end today with this request. Get the book, American Restraint, Taming Hyper-Individualism and Hyper-Capitalism, the handbook to fix America. And keep listening. I'll be back again later this week. Have a great day.